Good morning, children. The Open Window by Saki. The themes, okay? First, themes. Appearance and reality. Vera, the 15-year-old, appears to be a very sweet girl, while in fact she is very playful since she makes up stories so well. That means she is good at making up stories that even her own aunt falls for them. That means she likes them so much. Yes, the reader also believes Vera to an extent. That means the reader believes her to a certain extent, but not fully. The window is real, whereas Vera's story is imaginative, through which Nuttall expected to see three ghosts coming through the window. So when he saw the man coming towards the house, what did he do? He fled. That means he ran away from there. Yeah, that is what fled means. Now we move on to the description. Vera deceives, that means she cheats Frampton Nuttall with a story of her aunt's brothers being lost in the marsh and never returning. She also deceives her aunt by giving a reason as to why Nuttall rushed out of the house after seeing the three men, telling her aunt that he fears dogs. So what does he tell the aunt? That he is so scared of dogs. Now next, sanity and insanity. We say somebody is insane means mad. Sane means not mad. Okay. This story, short story, measures the sanity and insanity. That means one who behaves like a mad person is said to be insane. So we get that word insanity from insane. Of all the characters, that means they behave like somewhat mad. Frampton Nuttall is insane to believe Vera without being more observant. That means he doesn't observe, but he believes. Yeah. He thinks that Mrs. Appleton is insane, mad, but he's insane for real. Plot. Next we move on to what? The plot of the story. Yes, children. Frampton Nuttall is suffering from nerve disease. For this reason, his doctor advised him to visit a rural area where he knows no one. His sister gives him letters of introduction so he can meet people there. Okay, next we move on to the plot, children. What is the story about? That is plot. Frampton Nuttall is suffering from nerve disease. For this reason, his doctor advised him to visit a rural area. That means go to a village-like place where he knows no one. That is a rural area. His sister gives him letters of introduction so he can meet people there. He pays a visit to Mrs. Appleton. While he waits for her 18-year-old niece puts up with him, when she realizes Nuttall has never met her aunt and knows nothing about her, she explains that it has been 3 years since Mrs. Appleton's great tragedy when her husband and brothers went hunting and never returned, apparently engulfed by a bog. Mrs. Appleton keeps the large French window open every day. Why? She hopes that they would return through that window. That's the reason. Mrs. Appleton appears. She seems careless to Nuttall, talking instead about her husband's hunting trip and how she expects him home any minute. Then the hunters appear in the distance and Nuttall, horrified, grabs his walking stick and moves out. Exit means to go out. When the Appletons exclaim over his sudden, impolite departure, the niece calmly explains that he was probably frightened of Hunter's dog. She claims that Nuttall told her if she was once chased into a cemetery in India and held at bay by a pack of aggressive dogs. Okay, children, now we move on to what? The characters in the play. Characters, round like Vera. Saki's playful protagonist is indeed a dynamic or round character. For one thing, she's smart young lady who's able to identify people's weaknesses and to create a convincing tale that will deceive her audience. Very easily, she'll be able to deceive. Deceive means to cheat, to fool. She plays with Nuttall's feelings, telling him a fabricated story. What's a fabricated story? Something that is not real is made up. Actually, it is a made up story. It is not real. And deceiving her aunt, telling her that Nuttall's fled, that means ran away, related to the fear of dogs. Why did they run away? Because they were so scared of dogs. Suddenly, Vera enjoys exploiting the weaknesses in others with quick and clever practical jokes. She's good at cracking jokes. Frampton Nuttall is the nervous, unconfident type. He's not at all confident. He came to the countryside to cure himself. Remember, he's suffering from nervous disorder. That is why he comes to the countryside to cure. He met Vera, who plays with his feelings. He even worries about Mrs. Appleton's reception of him when he's introduced, and he's comfortable throughout the telling tale of Vera. Yes, children. Yeah, now next we move on to Mrs. Appleton. Is a relaxed, gentle woman concerned only with herself and those for whom she cares. For she takes no interest in Frampton Nuttall's coming. She is not bothered also. When Nuttall mentions his condition, his explanation for his visit, she responds in a voice that hardly overwhelms a yawn. She has got no reaction. After Nuttall's sudden escape, she merely remarks upon his behavior and displays no concern for his feelings, expressing a slight curiosity. That means she's not much bothered. Yeah. For his actions, which Vera's cleverly calms. Frampton Nuttall's sister. Let's see. Frampton Nuttall's sister once spent time in the same town to which Frampton has come for relaxation. She has given him a number of letters of introduction with which he is to make himself known to a number of people in the town. Many other flat characters are expressed through the story, like the haunters, Mrs. Appleton and Mrs. Appleton's two brothers and a dog. So now the setting time is October. Where does it take place? Countryside, England, the Appletons' house. Okay, identify the literary devices in the short story and what is the importance of this? That is, what is its significance? Irony. What is irony? One of the examples of irony in this short story can be seen when Vera says that a great tragedy has happened to her aunt, Mrs. Appleton. It is a form of verbal irony because the story told by Vera is the opposite of the truth. It is exactly the opposite. As readers read on, they will find out that the missing Mr. Appleton, Mrs. Appleton's two brothers and the dog are still alive. Personification. Personification means inserting human traits into non-living things. The phrase, a treacherous piece of bog, is one of the examples of personification. Why? Because bog is non-living, human qualities are given to it. Okay, that is why it is personification. Contrast can be seen between the characters Vera and Nuttall. Vera is a very self-possessed young lady of 15, full of confidence. She's very convincing that Nuttall and even Mrs. Appleton believe everything she says. Nuttall is a confused character who is suffering from what? Nervous disorder. Yeah, he has a weak personality since he needs his sister's help to introduce him to people. Style. What is a style? The structure. The construction of Saki's story, Open Window, is remarkable. The structure is actually that of a story within a story. The story is that of Mr. Nuttall's arrival at Mrs. Appleton's house for the purpose of introducing himself to her. Within this narrative frame is the second story. That means there's a story, within that there is another story. It's Mrs. Appleton's niece. Appleton's niece. Symbolism. What's the symbolism there? Symbolism. The most important symbol in the open window is the open window itself. When Vera tells Mr. Nuttall the story of the lost hunters, the open window comes to symbolize Mrs. Appleton's sadness. What does that open window symbolize? Mrs. Appleton, that she's sad and heartbreak at the loss of her husband and younger brother. Actually, they're still alive, yes. When the truth is later revealed, the open window no longer symbolizes anguish, but now it symbolizes deception. So, children, that's all for this session. Please read this. Write down in your notebooks. Keep reading and revising. Yes, children. Thank you. Goodbye.